All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the every other even questions. Okay, so the first thing is we're going to group these. And when I factor out an x, I'm left with a y minus 2. Okay, now if I rearrange these, I would also have a y minus 2. So I can factor out just 1. Instead of a negative 1, just factor out 1. And I'm left with y minus 2. Then when I look here, what do I have in common with these two terms is a y minus 2. So I factor out y minus 2, and I'm left with an x plus 1. Okay, so my answer is y minus 2 and x plus 1. And if you were to put your x plus 1 first and your y minus 2 second, it wouldn't actually matter. Okay, so now here, we're going to group these two and group these two. So I would be left with, I factor out an a, I'm left with a minus 4. And I factor out a 6, and I'm actually, if I rearrange these, my a can come first and my negative 4 can come second. So then I'm looking at these two terms, these two terms, and they have a common a minus 4, so then I can factor out an a minus 4, and I'm left with an a plus 6. Okay, so let me just rewrite this a little bit better because it's a little messy. A plus 6. So I have a minus 4 and a plus 6. Okay, so now going to 10, we will group these again. So I factor out a 2 and a j, and I'm left with a j plus 1. And I factor out a 3, and I'm left with a j plus 1. And then again, what's in common with these two terms is a j plus 1. And I'm left with a 2j plus 3. So I have a j plus 1 and a 2j plus 3. Okay, and then moving to 14, again, group these, and I have a common 2 and a u, so then I'm left with an n minus 4, and then I have a 3 that's in common, because remember, 12 is the same thing as 3 times 4, so then I'm left with an n minus 4 here. So what's in common between these two terms is an n minus 4. So I have n minus 4, and then I have a 2u plus 3. So n minus 4 and a 2u plus 3. Okay, and then 18, so I have group these two. So I have a 3x, so I am left with a 3x, and then a minus y. And I can factor out a 2 and left with a 3x minus y. So then again, what's in common between these two terms is a 3x minus y. So I'm left with a 3x plus 2. So I have 3x minus y and a 3x plus 2. Okay. And then 22 is a decimal question. So, and that's where it's a little bit, strange. I'm going to say let's skip this one for now. So if you have this in your homework, let's just practice without doing the fractions and the decimals, and then we'll come back to these just so that way we can kind of just get better practice before we get all crazy. Okay, so here I could factor out a negative 2xy, and I'm left with a 4x minus y. And then I can factor out a 7 and left with a 4x minus y. So then what's in common is 4x minus y. So 4x minus y, and I'm left with a negative 2xy plus 7. So 4x minus y and negative 2xy plus 7. Okay, and then 30, so we'll factor by grouping again, and I can factor out, let's see, well, actually, what we could do is I can simplify this. So maybe there was a typo in here, but factor by grouping I don't think is necessarily what we want to do here. So I'm going to rewrite this. I have a 5mp and a minus 18pm, which I can write it as mp also, and then minus 2m squared plus 45p squared. So here, these two terms here make a negative 13mp minus 2m squared plus 45p squared, and then nothing is in common. So negative 13mp minus 2m squared plus 45p squared. Okay? And then the last one here, everybody's got a W. Let's see if I can group these and see if something happens. That's nice. So let's go, I can factor out a 6w cubed, and I'm left with a 2w plus 1. And then factor out a minus 2w, and I'm left with a 2w plus 1. And then what's in common between these two terms, oops, my highlighter didn't go all the way across, these two terms here, is a 2w plus 1. So I have 2w plus 1, and then a 6w cubed minus 2w. Now here's the thing, I should have probably factored out my greatest common factor first, but if you don't do it first, you could do it in the end, because there is something in common here between these two terms, which is a 2w. So I can factor out a 2w and have a 2w plus 1, and then what I'm left with in here is a 3w squared minus 1. So my factored form is 2w plus 1, and a 3w squared minus 1. Okay, and that is it for all of my every other even. In the reality with this last one, you guys probably should have done the greatest common factor first, because as we start to progress through different factoring things, that's the first thing you guys will always check, is pulling out a greatest common factor. So really I should have pulled out this 2w to start off with and be left with a 6w cubed plus 3w squared minus 2 minus 2w minus 1. So really, I probably should have done my greatest common factor first and done that before I did my factor by grouping. Okay, but that is it for this every other even.